Biz Life Podcast. I'm Donnie, Bedore, your host, and we're here to talk about the business life, not the busy life. So as you know, today we are not in studio, right? It's a little different. I have an amazing adventure that we're going to talk about and some inspiration. So I want you to stay tuned to the very end of this podcast. So I have Tom Hudson with me. Tom, welcome to the Biz Life.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's start off talking about, first who you are, where you came from. Give us a little bit of history.
Yeah, okay. I'm Tom Hudson. I was born and raised in New Zealand. Until I was 15, moved to England. This is just a brief story of me. Moved to England for 4 years.
Yeah.
Came back to New Zealand when I was 19. Got into construction. A few years later, had my own business, and then probably around the age of 30, I started to question a few things about myself and a few choices that I made, and
We'll talk about that as we go on.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
and
Kids, wife, nothing
no
like
kids,
that.
no single, no children, no family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Not by choice, it wasn't
Sure.
it wasn't a choice I made. It was just hasn't ended up that way.
yeah. Okay, well, great. Well, we met. My wife and I went on a charter with Warren and Erica from We Sail, and you were the captain.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew you before that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I ever met you, and we just really hit it off. I think you played rugby. How many years did you play rugby?
From when I was 4 years old to when I was 36.
So rugby is real. Is it just rugby is big in New Zealand, or it was just big with you?
No, it's huge in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Huge.
Okay. So I think because you played rugby, which is a very physical sport, right? And I'm in martial arts, very physical sport. So if we ever hugged and stuff, I was always trying to get the underhook on you. And,
Right.
and I remember messing with you and all that. And, And I don't know, it was just a bond, I think, that I connected with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I think that you're a natural person as well, and that's someone that I'm always drawn to.
Yeah.
Authenticity, so
Right.
yeah.
Yep. And so, we met on the charter, and you had expressed about this adventure that you were going on, and I was like, you know what? Man, that would be really, really cool to be a part of that. And so I'm actually with you now in an undisclosed location,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much about what we're doing because it's, I suppose, just to rewind, I think when you said tell me about yourself, I didn't talk about, I didn't get to becoming a captain, any of that. So we sort of skipped a bit there.
Yeah, that's okay.
But just to rewind, I think that, I was saying I was in construction at the age of 30. I changed my life around. I decided that construction didn't do anything for my soul, so I went out and went traveling, went backpacking, and got into sailing, and decided to get my captain's license, and that's how we ended up on that charter, because I ended up getting my captain's license.
Right.
And that has sort of morphed into me wanting to start my own YouTube channel. And hence now, here we are on this adventure.
Right.
And maybe you can tell on the camera, but our faces are maybe a little bit weathered. Our lips are a little bit chapped.
Yeah.
So we've been outdoors for the last, for me, a couple of weeks. And a lot more weeks to come. So that's
it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm only going to be here a couple more days, and I can't wait to get to this part on your episodes and follow along. It's going to be, and I have followed along since your first episode that came out. And I was going to talk about your YouTube channel here in just a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had some great conversations whenever we were together, right? And the places that we were at, there's not a lot to do other than basically talk, and have good conversation. And I think we hit the gamut of subjects. I mean, it was pretty widespread, almost of anything that you could talk about in life.
Right.
We really hit on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was great, and some of the things that I was picking up on is just the way that you are a very authentic person, and you have really resonated with finding your true self on what you feel comfortable in life, and so what I'd like to talk about, and maybe you can elaborate on some of those things, is for the most part our audience are business owners. They're entrepreneurs, they're business owners. Maybe they're maybe they're just friends and family of people that I know that just enjoy the business talk and things like that. But the thing about me, as far as business goes, business is really just living life within relationships for the most part, right? And I've really had some pretty good epiphanies this week on a few things that maybe I'll talk about off camera. Sure. But just having those relationships are so super important, and being authentic, right? And so some of the things that you had talked about was following your heart, right? Following your heart, and I'd like to talk about whenever you left, maybe your job, your construction, your business that you had, because what was the mindset of why you left, and the adventures that you're on, right? I mean, for the most part, I think most of our audience are probably in a conventional business setting.
Yes.
You're in an unconventional business setting.
Yeah.
But we talked about you're still in a business setting, but you're an unconventional, right?
Yeah.
So the shift, that's right. I'd like to talk about the shift, and then I'd like to talk about the unconventional business that you operate within.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we joked around in the last week about how I'd be a terrible guest on your show because I come across anti-business. Okay. But that's not the case at all. I know that maybe I would come across that way, but for me, I've always been somebody who questions the world. I've always been someone that, why am I doing that? Why are we all doing this? Why? Yeah. Why? I've got so many whys. This is, is this life? Is this how it should be? Am I really going to work in construction for the rest of my life until I retire? Like, is that a life that I want for myself? And I don't know. I look around and sometimes I question, am I different? Am I different to most? Because why isn't anybody else asking those questions? Right. Why do I feel like I'm the only one kind of going, is this how it is? Is this just it? Yeah. And I've been thinking, I've thought that way ever since a teenager, and probably younger, Right. But obviously because of the way the world works, I had to fit in. I had to fit in with that life. I had to be somebody. I had to, by the time you're in your, late teens, early 20s, people are asking you, what are you going to do? What's your, what are you going to do with your life? And I remember being very confused. And why are you asking me that? Huh. Should I know? Should I know by now what I should do? My parents weren't asking me that. It was more my friends' parents, like, so, okay, Tom, you're 21 now. What are you going to do? And I was thinking, I have no idea. Yeah. So I sort of fell into construction at the age of 15. I left school at 15. Yeah. And school wasn't really for me. I wasn't a naughty kid. I wasn't suspended. I didn't get expelled. Nothing like that. I just that style of learning wasn't my style. So yeah, I basically left school at 15. Started working in construction just because I had to. I had to do something, and I just stayed in that for a while until I always knew that it wasn't going to be my forever. I always knew that. Yeah. It was always just a stepping stone to wherever it is that I'm going to end up. Yeah. But I got a bit addicted to money. Okay. Because I ended up buying a house in my mid-20s. And money became security, and so the more money I had in my bank, the better I felt. I remember when I was working, I just wanted to see $10,000 in my bank. When I saw that, I was like, great, now I want to see 20,000. And I saw that, I was like, great, now I want to see 30,000.
Yeah.
But there wasn't an end to that. There wasn't like okay, now I've got 30,000, now I can do this, or now I can buy that, or now I can invest in that. It was just that I got addicted to seeing the numbers in my bank account grow. Mm-hmm. And that's no way to be,
right.
basically.
Yeah.
And later on, I realized that I should have been working for a purpose. And I think that if I did, I would have enjoyed working more.
Yeah.
Because there was, there's a reason to go to work. It's because by the time I have this much money, I'm going to do these things. And I never set those goals for myself. I just worked for the sake of working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously when you're doing it that way, and this is all in hindsight, at the time I didn't realize.
Sure.
What I mean? At the time I'm just like, what is this? And so basically at the time it didn't do anything for my soul.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything for my soul. And so I ended up I sort of went in and out of business. I had my own business, then I would sort of go, what am I doing? I want to do this instead. And so I would, it took me a couple of years actually of confusion, to be honest with you. And, getting back on wages again and starting my own business. I went to Australia, back on wages. And I would sell my soul to my employer. I'm a sensitive person. I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
And so when I work for somebody, I work for that person. Right. And I would give everything for that job, and whatever my boss needed, that's what I would do. Yeah. To the point where I had no social life. I had no sex life. I had no, like nothing. Yeah. Every time my friends are like, we're all going here, we're doing this. I'd say, no, I have to get up early in the morning, and because I got 25 guys all looking at me in the morning saying, what are we doing, Tom? Right. And so that took priority. Yeah. And that was like my prime years, and I in the end of that, I felt like I was just pushed out. Like I sold my soul to that company, and the company basically didn't care. In the end, they were like, see ya, Yeah. And I was like, wow, look at what I've done. Right. Look at how much I destroyed myself. It wasn't just social life and sex life. It was my digestion, my health. Like I wasn't eating in the right times because I was so stressed, because I was concentrating so much on what they needed me to do. Right. Yeah, and in the end, I just got pushed out, and I was like, wow, I just spent all that time thinking that this is the right thing, and this is going to really help me, and then just like pushed out, like I was just garbage. And I think it was that, on top of obviously many other things. I could talk for hours.
No, that's okay.
My father passed away when I was 23. Right. That affected me. Sure. As far as he worked his whole life, and he died at 54. Yeah. Suddenly, and at that age, I was kind of thinking, wow, he worked his whole life, and then in the end, he died. Right. And it was a bizarre. Yeah. Such a surreal moment that I was kind of like, I don't want that. I don't want that for myself. Yeah. So it was many things. Yeah. Many things that I could talk for hours about. Yeah, I see that. That led me to the decision of throwing it in. I decided my priority is going to be happiness. Okay. It's not that I would never work again, but right now my priority needs to be happiness. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I threw in work. I went to Thailand, on a one-way ticket. Yeah. And a couple of months later, I was sitting there on a beach drinking a cocktail, and I was still not relaxed. I could still feel like I'm still thinking about money. I'm still thinking, what if this happens to my house, and what if my tenants do this, and and I realized I'm on holiday for an extended period of time, but I'm not relaxed. And so I knew at that point I have to go home, back to New Zealand, and sell my house. Oh wow! So 3 days later, I was on a plane back to New Zealand. Yeah. And when I got home, everyone says, "All right, Tom, you're home. What are you going to do?" And I said, I'm going to sell my house.
Sell my house.
Yeah, I'm selling my house. And they would say, no. They said, don't sell your house. Borrow more money against your house and buy another house or start a business.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, but I'm unhappy. Right. And that would just go over their head. And they would say, anyway, borrow more money and buy another house or start a business. And I realized that everybody is thinking profit. Mm-hmm. And that was a time in my life, and there's a time and a place for that, absolutely.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
That moment in my life, it was not a time for thinking of profit.
Right.
But every single person in my life, my family, my friends, telling me that I'm doing the wrong thing. And it takes a pretty strong person to not take that on. Right. So I was still in Auckland, and now confused. Do I sell my house? Do I not sell my house? Because now I'm feeling like, man, I'm doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Even though I knew deep down I need to get rid of that house.
Yeah.
Everybody's opinions was affecting me so much.
Yeah.
That I just didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. And I was just like, ugh. And it wasn't until a very good friend of mine, I said to her, I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. And I loved what she did because she didn't tell me what to do. Every single person was telling me what to do. And she just said to me, well, why did you come home? And I said, to sell my house. And she said, and why did you want to sell your house? And I didn't even need to answer it.
Yeah.
I didn't even need to tell her the answer. Just her asking me those the most simplest questions ever.
Right.
I knew at that moment, what am I doing? Listening to other people's opinions on this. And like I said, I didn't even need to answer her. I just knew the strong feeling like, sell your house.
Yeah.
And I sold my house within a week.
Okay.
And I've learned a lesson from that experience, that I don't ever give advice unless it's asked for. I will first say, would you like my advice? Would you like my opinion? But I learned something from that, because that wasn't good. That wasn't easy for me. That wasn't the time where I wanted opinions of others.
Right.
And after I was selling my house, they would say, oh, hang on, no, but, and I would say, thank you, thanks for caring, but I don't want to hear it because it matters to me.
Right.
Because, you think that it doesn't, but of course there's this little, every little comment leaves this little bit in you. And then 100 people later, you're like, okay, I'm doing the wrong thing, And so I sold my house within a week. And then it changed though. People changed. They went from saying, I don't know, it's the wrong thing, to wow, you're brave. Because everyone's trying to get into that. I did the complete opposite to what everyone's trying to do.
Yeah, they're trying to buy a house. They're trying to build and add.
And I'm trying to get out of it.
And you're like, I want out.
Yeah.
Of this. Okay.
And the moment my house was sold, we signed the contract. I bought a ticket back to Thailand, back to where I started.
Okay.
Or back where I left.
Yeah.
And carried on.
Okay.
And travel for me, it was the best thing that I could have done. I have zero regrets about that experience. Yeah. And people ask me that a lot. Do you ever regret selling your house? No. Yeah. It opened my world up. It made me realize. It was probably about 2 months later. It allowed me to look back at my life. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to look at who I was, living in my bubble. My mindset when I was living in my bubble was, well, I've got a mortgage. I owe something like $250,000 to the bank. All I know is construction, and I hate it. But that's just what I have to do now for the rest of my life. That was my mindset. And it wasn't until I left and I removed myself from my bubble. And you don't need to travel to do that. That's just what allowed me to do it.
Right.
But it allowed me to look back at who I was, and I realized how narrow-minded I was. You know, I was so keyhole visioned that's what I thought that, you know, I thought that's my life now. That's my future.
Let me get into that.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, if you're watching, I would love for you to like, subscribe, and share this video out. It really, really makes a difference for every person that does that. So please do that as we continue. So, yeah, I want to talk about that as well too. You know, having that keyhole vision, right? And what traveling has done for that vision, because we had talked about it, and I sort of expressed about, you know, my experience in the more I travel, you know, the more I pick up and things like that. I guess the question would be, you know, how has that changed your vision as you're traveling, meeting different people, and doing different things?
Yeah, I mean, that has been, in a way, a lifesaver for me, because of being in New Zealand or being in, you know, Australia or England, and feeling so different. You know, feeling like I think differently to everybody, and feeling a little bit of it like an outsider, and, you know, not really knowing who to talk to about it. I probably talked about it a lot to everyone, you know, but maybe I came across as just weird or confusing, because I was kind of like, I felt like, why am I the only one thinking outside of the box a little bit here, you know? And traveling for me allowed me to meet similar people. You know, it allowed me to meet people that were on my same path, or thinking the same things as me. Maybe they're years or months ahead of me, or maybe they're a year or two behind me, and they're wanting to do what I, you know, take that step that I took with selling my house and closing my business and taking that giant leap, you know. So it gave me inspiration. You know, traveling just gave me a huge amount of inspiration. Inspiration that I wasn't finding in New Zealand. I wasn't finding it around my friends and family, unfortunately. And that's no disrespect or anything, you know. It's just like I keep explaining, the way I was thinking was different, and nobody back home, not nobody, my circle of friends weren't really thinking the way I was thinking, to the extent that I was thinking it.
I get you, right?
And so, it gave me a huge amount of inspiration and drive. Like, there's hope. You know, there's a chance for me yet. You know, maybe I don't have to go back to construction. You know, because traveling made me realize that my opportunities in this world are endless. Absolutely endless.
Oh, absolutely, right. And that's the beauty of it.
But I thought it was this. I thought that's my opportunity, because that's all I know.
Right.
And traveling made me go, whoa, no, I got the whole world here.
Yeah. So do you think at the time, I mean, now you realize it's definitely not, but at the time, did you think, okay, construction, home, all that was going to be my comfort zone, right? If I had all these things, then I would be comfortable, I would be secure and all that. And then I think what we're saying is at a moment, you're like, okay, I need to find happiness. I need to find something, because that something is not in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it was very uncomfortable to go from, okay, I'm going against the grain here, and I'm going to sell everything.
Yeah.
And I'm going to travel.
But I think that I don't think it was as uncomfortable as people would realize.
Okay.
Because I had reached the point. You know, I had reached the point where it's like, there's no other option for me.
Well, and that's at the moment of, okay, I've made up my mind.
Yeah.
But before that, right, before the making up the mind, during the struggling part.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I'm struggling, but also not knowing why I'm struggling.
I got you. Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Right.
Because your whole life you're just told this is normal, this is life, this is success, this is, you know, and that's why it took me so long to actually take that step, you know.
Yeah.
Because of your whole life being told what's normal.
Yeah.
And here I am now taking a step like away from that.
Right. Definitely. That's why I was saying, you know, most of our audience is conventional.
Absolutely.
You're very unconventional.
Yes.
You know, Yeah. So you had said a word in there, success, right?
Right.
How would you define success?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
For you? I mean, in your own skin,
yeah.
right? In your own skin,
Yeah. For me,
in your own journey.
I mean, I wish that I had this amazing answer,
No, it's all
but
right.
it's happiness. It's freedom.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very simple.
Yeah.
And again, freedom and happiness doesn't necessarily define where you're at or what you do.
No.
It's a state of being, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, like for me, I'm definitely more on the conventional side of life.
Mm-hmm.
I find freedom and happiness within that.
Yeah.
Within that bubble.
For sure.
I do.
I think that maybe this is connected, maybe it's not, but
it's okay.
I think that once you take the scary step, the next one's not as hard.
I agree.
Then the next one after that's even easier.
I agree.
And the next one after that's even easier.
Yeah.
You know, like when I took that first step, I've gone back to New Zealand a couple of times and started the business again. And then kind of going, and then now I don't want it anymore. You know? You know, so, and that's also what gave me the confidence to get a backpack and go again. Because I've proven it to myself. I've proven it that at any point I can go home and do that.
Right.
Of course, as you get older, it's probably going to get a bit harder for that, you know.
Okay.
But I think that's the fear that most people have, and I think that's the fear that people had for me was, but hang on, you know, you've got a business and you've got, you know, these things. So for me, I sort of felt like that's the easy life. It's for me, it doesn't do anything for my soul, but I can do that. I could go home tomorrow and do that. Yep. You know, the step is into the unknown, and that's what excites me.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, the fact, especially at the time, I didn't know what I was doing next month, and that excited me.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. And for some that are listening, they're like, if you don't know what you're doing next month, that I could not deal with having my next month planned out, not alone my next month, but maybe my next year or 5 years or 10 years. And,
I mean, mate, I said month then, but actually it was like tomorrow. It was days. You know, sometimes I caught a plane to a country and I didn't know where I was staying that night.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know why I said month.
No,
it was probably much less.
Now you're really freaking people out, right?
Yeah.
They were freaked out at a month. Now they're freaked out. What do you mean you don't know what you're doing tomorrow or where you're going? But
suddenly it was exciting. You know, it brought joy back to my life to travel and to see people and to meet people similar to me and to really open my eyes to there's more to my life than construction.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I wouldn't do it again. You know, it's not to say that. It's just that my whole life I've never put walls up. I've never said I don't want kids. I've never said I don't want to settle down. I've never said I don't ever want to, you know, do anything. Right. I sort of left and I just said to the world, come at me.
All right. You heard that, ladies. All right. So he's single and he never said it. So I'm just kidding.
You know, I said to the world, come at me. Come at me. Just give me any opportunity.
Yeah.
Give me all of the opportunities.
Yeah.
And I can choose.
Yeah.
You know, I can, and if that meant that for some reason I stopped in the farmland of India, and that's just where I wanted to stay, then that's what I would do. I was just sort of like, I'm open, you know,
right.
And I ended up backpacking around the world for 4 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I did it in 2 years.
Okay.
Because remember, I sold my house.
Yeah.
So I had money in the bank.
Right.
And that money came from hard work. So
absolutely.
This is where the cycle is. It's a tough one because for me to live the lifestyle that I live now, I had to go through that tough, that confusing, that work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and that has paid off now.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the tough one, and that's maybe
Right.
what some of your viewers are kind of going, well, you can't do that.
Yeah,
You know, you can't do that unless you do this, and you need money to do that lifestyle. It's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I said before, work for a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what I was guilty of. I wasn't working for a
Mm-hmm.
purpose. And if you want to take that step, then put in the hard yards.
Yeah.
You know, go to work every day, but go to work knowing I'm doing this to reach that goal.
Yeah. Whenever we start a business or whenever we encourage people to, or talk to people, we always tell them start with the end in mind and really start with the purpose in mind, right?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And really understand that before you move forward, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, right, you're gonna get into this and you're gonna be like, okay, what am I doing? I'm at a place I'd never expected. I don't like this. I'm frustrated. I'm unhappy. Maybe I went through a divorce now because of it, right? It ruined my life.
Yeah.
But if you start with a purpose, and that's really, the underlying thread that, I wanted to talk about was, the purpose of what you're doing. And I loved that you said that look, if you're working, I don't have anything wrong with that because I had to do that to get to this, but at least know your purpose of why you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose the way I visualize it is, I think in my mind, imagine two people work the same job. One person doesn't have a purpose, one person doesn't have a goal, and the other one has a goal. And then I imagine them, maybe they work in a factory.
Yeah.
And I imagine those two people walking into that factory door at the same time. One would be, the one that doesn't have a goal, the one that doesn't have this end goal in mind, would be dragging his feet a little bit. Right. Just like, here we go again.
Yep.
And the one that's got the goal in mind would have a bit more of a skip to his step.
A little pep in the step.
Yeah, just like, okay, here we go.
Yep.
Get this done because next year, or next week, or in 5 years, whatever that goal may be, Right. But you can put in those hard yards. You can go to work with a bit more energy and a bit more drive, And yeah, I was guilty of being that one dragging my feet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So, backpack through the world for 4 years.
Yeah.
Right.
I did it in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And then I said that I'd backpack until I really heard myself say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay.
And
it reminds me of Forrest Gump when he's running
and
he's like, I think I'm going to stop running.
Yeah, pretty much. And honestly, I thought 3 to 6 months, wow, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And then I remember day one of backpacking, day one in Thailand, and I was checking into a hostel, and there was a guy checking out.
Okay.
And I said to him, "You checking out? You going?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, where are you going?" And he said, He was German, and he says, "I'm going home." And he had a beard, and he had this shirt on that was stitched together. He looked like the backpacker.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh," he says, "I'm going home." And I said, "Oh yeah, well," I said, "How long you been traveling?" And he said, 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he said it with such I've been traveling for 1 year, just so proud,
Yeah.
And I was day one, and I thought, wow. I was like, wow, 1 year. I thought that would be amazing. Imagine saying that.
Yeah.
Imagine saying 1 year.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
And people are like, how long have you been traveling? I'm like, 1 year. And they're like, 1 year? What the? I'm like, 1 year, yeah. And it was a proud thing,
Sure.
Then, how long have you been traveling? I'm like, 2 years. And they're like, 2 years? It's like, yep, 2 years. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Then it got on to 3 years, and the excitement dropped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
1 year, people are like, wow, 1 year? And then once you start getting 3 years, they're kind of like, all right,
there's something wrong with this guy.
What's your problem? And next thing I'm saying 4 years, and they're like,
4 years?
4 years you've been backpacking? Yep. Yeah. And kind of like, what are you running from? And at the time I remember thinking nothing. I'm not running from anything, But I think realistically, yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
I was running from reality, where I was running from my previous reality.
Gotcha.
I didn't want that back. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wanted something, and I told you before, I was open to the universe or the world just to give me opportunities.
Yeah.
And it just didn't. It just didn't give me anything. It was frustrating,
Yeah.
And so after 2 years, actually, I went back to New Zealand thinking, because I thought I heard myself say, I want to go home. And I went home. I was in Bolivia, flew back to New Zealand, and I was home for just a few weeks.
Okay.
And then I thought, oh no, I'm not ready for this, So I basically just put on a backpack and I went again.
Yeah.
And I did another 2 years.
Okay.
And then, before COVID, I went home back to New Zealand, and sort of unintentionally started a business.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to Auckland where I grew up, and people know me as that person. All my friends and family know me as Tom, who works in construction. He does retaining walls and driveways and paving and drives, excavations and, earthworks. And so when I go home, it doesn't take long for my phone to ring.
Yeah.
Even though I've been away for 4 years, they say, "Oh, Tom, you're home." And I say, "Yeah, I'm home." "Well, I've got a retaining wall. I've got a retaining wall I need done. You want to do it?" And I think, yeah. I can do it. I can help you out. And so I do that one. I do that little job, and I just think, no, but I didn't come back here for this.
Yeah.
I just came back here to whatever it may be. And then I do that retaining wall. Then, maybe my auntie or somebody else might say, "Hey, I've got this driveway that I need someone to do. Do you want to do it?" And I go, "Well, yeah. I'm not doing anything at the moment, so yeah, I can do that."
Yeah.
And so, and then next thing, a few weeks later, I've got a truck, I've got a digger, I've got a couple of staff,
You got a business.
Yeah, and then 6 months later, that's when I go, hang on.
Wait a minute.
Where did this come from? This was not a conscious decision that I made.
Okay.
I never went home saying, I'm going to go home and start my business again.
Right.
It just happened that way because that is where I went to, because that was my normal.
Right.
That was what I grew up doing.
Yep.
And so as soon as I go home and people know me as that, and as soon as I go home, I feel that as well. When I go back to work, when I feel like, oh yeah, I'm that guy that builds things and moves earth around,
Yeah.
And so I unintentionally started a business again, and then 6 months later, I was like, hang on, this wasn't my plan. This was not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was just before COVID, and I had a plan to one guy that worked for me, Aitor, from the Basque Country in Spain. He volunteered for me at where I was staying. I had a little farm as well.
Okay.
And so he was volunteering for me on the farm, and when he left, he got on a boat called Expedition Drenched, which have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And when he got on that boat, he just messaged me saying, this would suit you, that you need to come and do this. Mm. And so because he was on there, he put a word in to the captain, Nate, and yep, sure enough, there was space for me to go.
Yeah.
And I was going to go there in February of 2020. Maybe it was late February, early March. Yeah. And just a couple of days before my flight, the boat was in Australia. Mm. Because of COVID, everything shut down.
Yeah. Okay.
And so before that happened, my plan was I'm going there. So I closed my business. I sold my things. I put some things in storage, and then everything closed down. Mm. So then I had to take everything out of storage. I had to start hiring machinery and stuff because I had to just go back to work. I had to make money again, And after having the time off because of COVID restrictions and things, of course. But then, when we started working again, it was so hard because I had mentally and physically checked out.
Yeah.
Kind of like, great, I'm closing this down again. This is in the past for me, and now I'm going boating. I'm checking out the sailing life.
Yeah.
And then so I had to pull everything back out because everything closed and I couldn't go to Australia. And I had to do that for another 8 months, just back on the tools, back working, and then as soon as New Zealand and Australia opened up, just between those two countries, I was on the first flight. I jumped on that first flight and I headed to Darwin, where the boat was, and jumped on board, and that's what gave me this passion for sailing. Yeah, that experience. Yeah, as well as an insight to the different ways of making money that I would never have thought of before. The YouTube world, the online world, the social media, it for me was a very strange concept. Like I said, coming from construction. Yeah. My idea of working is physical. Sure. It's kind of like if I'm not physically doing something, then I feel like I'm not deserving of anything. That was kind of my mentality. Yeah. But it was very strange to go there, and there's YouTube, and what YouTube pays you, and then you've got patrons. You've got people who really just love the channel and love what you do, and they are paying you. They're giving you donations each week or each month. Right. It's like, what? What do you mean? Yeah. And it took me a while to get my head around it. There's people out there that do that, and sure. And it was difficult for me to understand at the beginning, but now I get it. Yeah. Because now that going to that boat and that world really opened my eyes to this possibility that I could do this. Right. Yeah. And I've always been somebody who kind of, I guess, more of a leader. I've always had my own companies, or I've when I do start on wages or for somebody, normally it's at a sort of management or supervisor type level. It's kind of my my personality. Yeah. And so when I went there, I was kind of like, I think I can do this. Yeah. I'm very awkward in front of the camera.
I think you do great.
Well, not at the beginning. I didn't even know now. I'm not even going to say I'm good now, but at the beginning, I was terrible. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. You got to be bad to get good.
Yeah, I mean this YouTube channel, Expedition Drenched, is a sailing channel about sailing and scuba diving. Okay. So we would sail around Australia, stopping at all the best scuba diving sites, and we would do sort of 2, 3, normally 2 dives a day, sometimes 3. Wow. A couple of a night dive now and then. Yeah. And we would film the whole experience. And I remember that when I would see somebody walking over towards me with the camera, I would go walk around the other way, go to the other side of the boat, because it was always very uncomfortable for me. Right. And so I wasn't one of the faces on that channel. I wasn't one of the faces right in front of the camera. I was always in the background. I was I was fixing things, and because of my background in construction, I was the one that was sort of building and fixing. Yeah. And until I was on that boat for about 9 months, maybe 10 months. Okay. And until I thought, well, I'm going to buy my own. I think I'm going to buy my own boat. Okay. And I finally. I'm just telling my story, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please do. It's so interesting. And I know y'all at home, are watching this or love it. So just keep watching, because it gets gooder.
Yeah. So I was looking online for boats just casually, and then I just found this boat that I was like, that's what I want. Yeah. Like on Expedition Drenched, it's a 75-foot steel, steel set motor sail, 75-foot steel motor sailor.
Is that monohull or
mono?
Okay,
monohull. Yeah. And then I found this one online that was pretty much the same. It's a 75-foot steel hull monohull. Yep. But it was in Panama. Yeah. And so I was messaging the guy back and forth about the boat and about the details of it, and we were talking for I want to say a couple of months. Yeah. And then in the end, I made an offer based on, I hadn't seen the boat yet physically. It's in Panama. I'm in Australia. It's COVID. It's halfway through COVID. So I said, based on what you're telling me about the boat, this is my offer.
Right.
And he accepted that offer.
Okay.
And I was like, ooh, okay, well, crap, I guess I have to go to Panama now,
Yeah.
And so I jumped on a plane. Wasn't cheap. Flew to Panama during COVID.
Yeah.
Got there. He picked me up. He took me out to the boat, and he said, "Here it is. Take your time. Make sure it's the right boat for you." He was very nice about it. And here's the bed. Sleep. So I was sleeping on the boat. And the second day that I was there, I was looking around the boat. I was excited. I was like, wow, this could be mine. This is going to be mine.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, like, it was maybe 8 o'clock at night, 8:30, and I was, looking around. I was looking at things. I was lifting up floorboards, like, wow. And then he came on the boat, and he just said, "What are you doing?" Am I allowed to swear on you?
We can bleep it out. But yeah, no, I mean, we can, you were checking it out.
I was checking it out, and he came on aggressive and said, "What the," a whole lot of profanity.
Yeah.
Basically, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I said, "What do you mean? What's happening? What's going on?"
Right.
I said, I'm checking out the boat that I'm sleeping on, that you've invited me on, that I've been on for a night or two already.
Right.
And he just said, "What the F are you doing?"
Yeah.
And started calling me all the names that you can think of. And he said to me, "If you've put drugs on my boat, I'm going to have you." And then he said, and if you did, he said, when the police get here, say nothing, and you come back tomorrow and you discreetly tell me where you put the drugs. And and I was in shock.
Yeah.
Just like, I said, "There's no drugs on your boat." I said, "I haven't. I got here yesterday or the day before."
Yeah.
I said, I'm here to buy your boat.
Right.
That's what I'm here for. But he kept telling me, "Get off my boat, get off my boat." I said, "Absolutely. I'm getting off your boat. Trust me."
Yeah.
And I got off the boat, and a long story short, nothing happened because I didn't have drugs, and I didn't put drugs on his boat.
Right. Yeah.
But I just thought, what the hell?
Yeah, no. So you didn't buy the boat.
No.
Yeah, didn't buy the boat.
I got taken away by the police.
Right.
This is why I kind of go, why is it that other people, when they want to buy a boat, they buy a boat?
They buy a boat.
They get a boat. When I want to buy a boat, I get taken away by the police. Sometimes I wonder, well, what's going on? Like,
it wasn't meant to be.
It obviously wasn't meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, I could talk for hours.
Yeah. No. What happened? Okay. So you don't buy the boat.
No.
Right. And then so the next little step went into what?
Yeah. So.
Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to piece to where you're at today.
Yeah.
And even though we can't tell them what you're doing today because they have to see it on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So next I was in Panama mid-pandemic.
Yep.
Even if I wanted to go home, I couldn't because of the strict rules in New Zealand.
Right.
With COVID, there was a 5-month waiting list to get home.
Yeah, I heard it was really, really strict.
Yeah, so even if I wanted to go home, I couldn't. And during COVID, there wasn't really anywhere else I could go, so I was stuck in Panama.
Yeah.
And so after that experience, being taken away by the police, I basically got a bus back to the city, Panama City, and I got a place to stay, and just thought, what am I doing now? And I had 4 bags because I thought I'm coming here to buy a boat, and I had my whole life with me,
Yeah.
So I couldn't backpack or anything like that. I had too much stuff.
Yeah.
So I messaged a friend of mine from Expedition Drenched, Nerea, and we were just talking, and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm here in Panama now, and I can't go anywhere.
Right.
And she said, well, why don't you message this guy Colin? He has a boat, and he's in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay. Like I'd never really known he has a YouTube channel that I didn't really know about. Because the YouTube world was new to me, like as I mentioned.
Right.
And so I messaged him. On Facebook, I said, hey mate, I'm Tom from New Zealand. He's also from New Zealand. I said, I'm in Panama. I came here to buy a boat. It didn't work out. And but I said, everything happens for a reason, and maybe you need some help. And he said, yeah, I do need help, actually. He said my boat's in Panama.
Yeah.
And I was told that his boat's in the Caribbean. So I'm thinking, somewhere in the islands.
Right.
And he said, yeah, my boat's in Panama. I said, oh, okay. Well, I'm in Panama. And he said, yeah, my boat's at a marina called Linton Bay. And I said, yeah. I said, yeah, I know Linton Bay.
That's where I was at, trying to buy my boat.
Yeah, and he said, I said, exactly, that's where I was going to buy the boat. And he goes, oh, well, who are you going to buy the boat off? And I said the name. And he says, yeah, I know him.
Mm.
Not in different words, but
not a good way.
Not an easy guy,
Yeah, I hear you.
And he said, but the problem is, my boat is right next door to his boat.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, what is going on? I thought, I'm a kind of believer in I don't really know how to word it that well, but kind of the universe sort of forcing you into positions.
Yeah.
Forcing you out of your comfort zone. And I just thought, out of all of the places where Colin could have had his boat,
right,
he has it in Panama. Out of all of the marinas in Panama that he could have had his boat at, he had it in Linton Bay.
Yeah.
And out of the hundreds of slips, out of the hundreds of places that he could have had his boat in that marina, it's right next to the one person that I was really happy to never see again in my life.
Right.
It's kind of like I was so happy to get away from that and move on. Like, okay, that didn't work out. Move on.
Right.
And then the universe kind of said to me, no.
You're going back next.
Get back there and deal with it, So, but because this guy that I was going to buy the boat off, he'd been in that marina for 14 years. So, So he had some pulling power. Kind of everyone knew him, management knew him. So it's kind of the deal was, well, we can't, Colin kind of said, well, you can't really come here if you've got sort of beef with this guy.
Right.
I said, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want that energy anyway, So
he
said, if you could clear that up, then he said, you can get on a bus and come tomorrow. So I messaged him. I messaged John again, the owner of the boat that I was going to buy.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I don't know what happened then, and I don't want to know. It's, pretty bizarre time, bizarre situation. But I said, just moving forward, it's safe to say I'm not going to buy your boat anymore. But I've got an opportunity to come to the marina and work on another boat. So I'm going to see you around from time to time. So if you could put that behind you, as I'm going to, that would be great.
Yeah.
And he got the message. You can see that he read the message, but he didn't respond.
Mm.
And for Colin, that was enough. He kind of said, well, you said the right thing, and what else can you do? So he said, come on down. So I went out there, and Colin has a YouTube channel called Parley Revival.
Yep.
And so I ended up being on that channel for a little short of a year and a half.
Yeah.
Probably a year and 3 months, something like that. Where we were sailing all around Central America. Went to a few boat shows in Annapolis and just filming everything, filming our lives, and until it got to a point where I felt that it's time for me to take control of my own journey, and I'm so appreciative of that time. I'm so lucky to have that time on his boat.
Yeah.
But it is his boat,
right,
and it is his channel.
Yeah, and so Colin, the guy you're talking about, my wife and I used to watch Below Deck.
Yeah,
and so he was
exactly.
He was on the show, and we really gravitated towards him on the show. And then so whenever they had made their migration from Mexico down to French Polynesia, him and then there were some other YouTube channels that I was watching at the time were either down there already or going down there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how YouTube sort of like suggests a video or a channel, and his came up, and I was like, Selena, this is Colin from Below Deck.
Yeah.
I had no idea that he had a channel until then. Right. Didn't even know that you were on that before that. Right. And then so whenever I met you and you told me that you were on there, I was like, no way!
Yeah,
oh my gosh! Okay, so anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
But I think that as amazing as that was, and
Yeah.
as appreciative as I am of that whole time,
Yeah.
I think that a year and a half, or just under a year and a half, was enough. And it was, I said before that my personality is, I like to, like a bit more of a leadership sort of role.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really felt like it was time for me to take control of my own journey.
Sure.
Because, and this isn't any disrespect, but, like I said, it's Colin's boat, it's Colin's the captain, it's Colin's channel.
Yeah.
So everyone on it is, we're doing what, we're following his journey, and what an amazing journey it is.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
But after a year and a half, I felt like, okay, I think I want to make my own journey now, and so I left that to pursue that.
Yeah, it's super respectful as well too.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's
And so I booked myself in for my captain's license, and basically flew to Spain. Yeah. And set my test as a yacht master.
Yeah, and don't tell much more, into the journey, because I don't want to. I know some of those videos aren't out yet. This will come out like next week or this week.
Yeah.
So
true.
So we'll have to almost stop there, because I know the captain license video just came out.
Yeah. So I guess then we'll jump that and say I started my own YouTube channel.
Right.
And I started that from the moment I left Parley Revival.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this podcast now, for me, is a little bit like, I'm not coming from the angle of you can do what I did.
Right.
I'm coming from the angle of, this is what I did. This is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And
maybe we could have another podcast in a year.
Yeah.
And then I can say, and it worked.
I would love to have that. You would, anytime you want to be a guest, I would love for you to be on here. And I would like to circle back and say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
How's it going now?
Exactly. Because right now, it's a new channel.
Yeah, it's the beginning. So let's pause real quick. So the channel that you can follow Tom's journey is called What in the World? What's funny is whenever we're on our adventure now and we would tell someone, hey, this is what we're doing. One person at a gas station, whenever I was buying the chapstick, he said, what in the world?
Yeah.
And I said, you've heard of it. He said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's the name of the YouTube channel that he has.
Okay.
And so it's called What in the World? You can find it on YouTube. Just started 4 episodes. Well, 3.5 episodes, 4 episodes are out.
Yeah, the fourth, or the fourth one's coming out in 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's early days.
Yeah.
It's just to circle back to speaking earlier. It's kind of like finally, here's my thing that jumped out at me. Yeah. I was telling you, I was looking. I wasn't really looking, actually. I was just open to, you find me, whatever that opportunity is.
Right.
Show it to me.
Yeah.
And so sailing was kind of like, there it is. That's my thing that I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
And I guess the YouTube world, even though it is a brutal world, and I said at the very beginning of this chat, I am a sensitive soul. I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
I try to be authentic. I try to be natural. I try to be myself. So sometimes when you are that way, the business world and the online world can really damage you.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
For my own mental health, I'm doing it, but also keeping it at a certain distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it matters to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't that sensitive. I wish I didn't care. Yeah. I wish I did just put out a video and be like, whatever, But I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when I did have businesses, I was successful.
Yeah.
Because I cared.
Right.
That's why when I did work for somebody, I gave them everything that I had, to the point where I suffered personally.
Yeah.
Because I cared.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know. I'm the same way. I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive to that as well too.
And so even somebody just saying the most little thing on YouTube. I'm like, oh, because I feel like that it was a stab in the heart for me.
Yeah.
I feel like it was because it is what I'm trying to put out is me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, this is my life.
Yeah.
If you want to check it out,
Right. Sure.
I know people back home with businesses that are very cutthroat.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that if I ever did a job for somebody and they said, I'm not happy with that, which has never happened in my life, so I don't even know where this is coming from.
Yeah.
I would always go above and beyond what was needed of me or what was expected of me, because I was always trying to avoid that conversation of that's not what I wanted or that's not good enough.
Yeah.
So I was always working extra just to avoid that.
Yeah.
So and I think that I still carry that around a little bit. So yeah. But I suppose my main goal, I don't want to tell people how to be. I don't want to tell people how to live or what decisions to make.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to show in some way that there's different ways.
Yeah.
There's other ways of doing things besides the norm, I again, here's my mind, the way my mind works. I think there's almost 8 billion people on the planet.
That's right.
We're all so different. We all think differently. We look different. We sound different. Everything about us is different.
Yep.
But yet we're all sort of taught the same way to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that does work for a lot of people.
Sure.
That works for this group of people. This way of living works for this group of people. But actually, there's this group of people, this group of people, this group of people. It sort of goes on with we're all so different, but we're all told, this is where to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what I tried, or that's what I broke away from.
Gotcha.
Stepping off that line, and all those people that are in there, like, hey. Don't cross that line. Stay here with us.
Yeah.
Stay here with us where it's safe and what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And I felt like, no, I want this. This is what suits me, and that's what I want to find.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was what I wanted to do, and if that helps people, if that inspires people to also take a step in a scary direction, that might feel so wrong, and everyone might be telling you don't do that.
Right.
I wanted to show that that's possible.
Yeah, and I had that same experience. Like whenever I left my, day job, I went to my boss and said, "Hey, look, I'm going to put in my notice. I'm going to start my own business." And he told me that. He said, "Don't do it." He said, in 6 months, you'll fail and you'll want to come back. It will not work. And I said, well, I just believed in myself. I was like, man, I believe I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I had many people who were like, don't do it. You need to have a job. You need to work for someone because there's benefits, there's security in that, and there's no security in owning your own business. So just that part, I experienced the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so no, I do find inspiration from you. I mean, I've been inspired the whole time I've been with you, and I've really, really enjoyed the conversation. Is there any last words? We're getting close to the end of the podcast. Yeah. Is there any last words of encouragement, maybe to the audience? And then I'm going to circle at the end and plug your podcast or your episodes again. I know, right? It's like, what do you want written on your tombstone? Right? And you're like, what? No,
I think it's rewind back to the very beginning. I think it's follow your heart.
Yeah.
I think that's it's my mum's words. Okay. That she always said to me, follow your heart, no matter what you do, follow your heart. And I always thought that I was. I always felt like, well, yeah, I am, because it's so simple. Follow your heart. Yeah, I am. And then it actually wasn't, when I did decide to really throw it in, my job and everything and travel, I actually woke up that morning and I had my mum's voice in my head saying, are you following your heart? And I kind of was really honest with myself and I said, no, I'm not. I thought I was actually, but I'm not. And it was so strong that I went to work that day and I was in Australia. I went to work that day and I quit.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's vital that you follow your heart.
Yeah.
And you know, you're never going to please everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely learning that now, especially, you know, starting this YouTube channel.
Right.
You know, you're always going to have people just disagreeing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's about, I think that you came into the world on your own, and you need to make choices for yourself and what's right for you. And when people, and ask for advice when you want advice. And I think that you're going to do all right if you do that.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Appreciate that. That's good. No, that's great. So yeah, they can find you on. Go ahead and give a shout out to maybe some of your socials or your.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is called What in the World. It's a YouTube channel about my life, I guess.
Yep.
You know, I started out sailing, so there's sailing in it. There's a bit of you know, like motorboat adventures. There's some things coming up that I can't mention just yet because it's not out yet. I haven't disclosed it on my YouTube channel yet. But it's not a sailing channel. It's not a channel about one particular thing. It's a channel about the decisions that I've made and where I'm at because of those decisions.
Yeah.
What in the world?
I love it, man. All right. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please do me a favor, share, like, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, then hey, click over to YouTube and get the visuals because it'll have a little bit more meaning to you whenever you watch it. So, thank you, Tom, and man, love you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time on the Biz Life.